Using open source intelligence techniques, the India Today SIT team has been able to conclusively establish that the Pakistani army systematically underreports the number of casualties it suffers in hostilities with the Indian army. How we've done this is pretty straightforward. We looked at all the admissions that were made by the Pakistani army at a time when an incident took place. For example, if there's firing along the LC, how many soldiers does the Pakistani army accept were actually killed in that bout of firing? Then, much later, we looked at videos emerging from Pakistan, the names of the soldiers who were buried in those videos, and compared them with the list of names that were put up by the Pak army on its own website. What we found were major variances, big gaps. Several soldiers who were killed were never mentioned on the Pak army website, going on to prove that the Pakistani army is underreporting the number of fatalities. For example, if 5 soldiers are killed, except that 2 were martyred, 3 are not named, but their funerals are taking place inside Pakistan. And India Today has been able to access through open source, which cannot be disputed, cannot be denied, images of those funerals taking place. We also looked at the citations that were given out, because when a citation is given, you mention the date on which an incident took place and you award the various soldiers who were killed in action. You compare this with the statements that were put out at the time when the fatality took place, and you find again the names of the soldiers are not mentioned. Ankit Kumar with this India Today open source investigation.
2 pilots ज़मीन पे जो हमारी फोर्सेस मौजूद थी, उन्होंने उनको अपनी अरेस्ट में लिया और जैसे उनके साथ एक महज़ब मुल्क सलूक करता है उसके मुताबिक उनके साथ सलूक किया। एक उनमें से ज़ख्मी थे, उनको हमने CMH मुंतकिल कर दिया है। इंशाल्लाह उनका पूरा ख्याल रखा जाएगा, जबकि दूसरे जो हैं वो हमारे पास हैं।
On the day of the dogfight between India and Pakistan, Major General Asif Ghafoor first announced that the Pakistani forces had captured 2 pilots. He backtracked hours later, denying the existence of a second pilot in custody. India firmly believes Pakistani troops wrongly identified one of their own F-16 pilots shot down by Wing Commander Abhinandan on the 27th of February. When the realization dawned, they recanted their statement. For Pakistan Army's notorious military propaganda wing, the Inter-Services Public Relations, covering up Pakistani casualties is routine. The act presided over by Major General Asif Ghafoor, Director General of ISPR. But India Today now reveals Pakistan's worst-kept secret. Our open source intelligence has found how Major General Ghafoor miserably failed in covering up ISPR's tracks. Remember, Pakistan Army's ISPR has been issuing historical data talking about the martyrdom of Pakistani soldiers in the line of duty. This data is widely circulated on ISPR's social media platform. But Major General Ghafoor appears to have goofed up badly. Our open source investigation has found a gross mismatch between ISPR's historical data and its own media statements corresponding to the same period. Sample this. The ISPR's historical data from August 29, 2017 acknowledges the loss of 1 Pakistani soldier along the line of control. But the same information is missing from the media statement issued that day. No mention of any casualties that Pakistan Army suffered at the line of control. Just a reference to a Pakistan Army operation in Peshawar division. We now rewind to a year before that. As per ISPR's historical data, another soldier died at the line of control on August 26, 2016. But Pakistan Army issued 2 statements that day. None carried any reference to any losses along the line of control. The historical data shows a fatal casualty in the Siachen area on July 29, 2012. But the ISPR released no press statement that day. Fast forward to 2017. Our open source analysis found a glaring mismatch between ISPR's historical data and its press statement from the corresponding days. One set records the casualties, the other omits them out. And the story goes on. On every occasion, Pakistan has shied away from admitting its losses along the line of control. The so-called martyrdom finds a mention only in the historical data released years later. That's not all. We now show you real Pakistan Army soldiers who died along the line of control but not acknowledged out of fear that their deaths may generate negative headlines in Pakistan. Videos we crowdsourced that expose the Pakistani military leadership. The funeral of Havaldar Salim Rajput of the 28th Sindh Regiment, who died at the line of control on August 7 this year. He was buried with full military honors. Local political leaders came for his burial. But the ISPR omitted this loss of life completely in its media statement. Sipahi Basharat Hussain, another Pakistan Army soldier, buried with military honors. Our open source investigations found no reference to his death in Major General Asif Ghafoor's public statements last month. There are many more names missing from the ISPR's list of fallen soldiers. SSG Commando Ijaz Ahmed, Sipahi Rahil Iqbal, Sipahi Khalid Abdullah. The list is virtually endless. That's how Pakistan put the deaths of its own troops under wraps. Fearing rising casualties may undermine not just the morale of the Pakistan Army, but the Pakistani public. But now, Pakistan's worst kept secret about the Pakistan Army not acknowledging its military casualties at the line of control are out in the open. Ankit Kumar for India Today.
This is explosive. It's what India has held for a long time. For the first time, India today being able to prove using open source intelligence techniques that Pakistan underreports the number of Pak Army soldiers who've been killed in action with India. We've pulled out pictures from within Pakistan, pictures of military funerals, pictures which went completely unacknowledged by the Pakistani Army in the official statements they put out on their own websites and publications. Joining us is Ankit Kumar from our investigation team, who's led the investigation into this entire story. Jiten Jain joins us. He's an information warfare expert. He's collaborated with our team in putting this investigation together. With us also at this time is Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. Now that we've got the Pakistanis nailed, we've got Kamar Chima joining us from Pakistan. Ankit, this is interesting because you're able to demonstrate from official Pakistani records that on the website, the names that are being put out are just very few, very limited, whereas the actual number of casualties are more, given these videos that we access from inside Pakistan.
Well, this is the data released by the ISPR, the Inter-Services Public Relations, the propaganda wing of Pakistani military. Remember, the internet does not forget, it does not forgive. What we have done is, we have gone back time, and we have checked, we have tried to match the historical data released by Pakistani military, and we have tried to match the data that was released on that particular day by ISPR. Remember, ISPR runs a very sophisticated online network. It has a good presence in social media. It has a good presence across digital networks. What it also does is it maintains a daily list of media statements where it keeps tracks of all the activities of Pakistani military. So all its casualties, all its media statements are put there. Even if you want to check a media statement released 5 years back, you can go back on the archive page of ISPR, and there is this press statement where Mr. Rahil Saree visited, where Mr. Kamar Javed Bhaja visited. So what we have done here is we have matched the numbers released by ISPR, historical data versus the current data. And what we have found is that even though Pakistan military is acknowledging that one casualty, two casualties, 3 casualties, they took place on the LOC or in Siachen for that matter. But on that day, when we went through the press release section, there was nothing. There was visits, there were sarkari mulaqats, but not a single word about those casualties. This is very
Jiten
serious.
Jain, can the Pakistani army and the likes of Qamar Bajwa, Qamar Chima get away by saying that, so we don't report all the deaths, what's the big deal? Doesn't mean that each time a soldier dies, we have to put it up on our website or release it to the press. Hum nahi karte.
No, here's a fair point. Like, you know, if 5 people die in a conflict today, you could, you know, choose to keep quiet about it. But you can't say that only 2 people died today. So it is not a question of hiding the facts, but it is a question of selectively misquoting and lying about the facts.
Why do you think they do it?
So what have they done? You know, I mean, they always want to show upper hand about the conflicts in India. So if you look at last, 1 month, every single tweet from the official handle of Imran Khan is about India. There is no tweet about Pakistan. They are, you know, fascinated by what is happening around. They want to create a fake aura of Pakistani army. 80% of tweets by DG ISPR in last 1 month are about India, conflict, number of casualties, war mongering and stuff. He's talking about the casualties on Indian side of border. He's talking about casualties on Pakistani side also. But all those casualties in last 6 months have been completely misquoted, lied upon, and that has been proven not,
Why does the
not by
Pak
us,
army
by
lie?
his own facts. So what Ankit was talking about, he has put up a figure last year, he has put up a figure this year today about remembering the victims of last year, you know, the people who got Shaheed of Pakistani army, and there is a 80% variation about the, you know, facts. And one point of time last year, he said that 5 people have died in the month of June or July, and today, last week, he's been posting about, let's remember 12 martyrs who died last year in June, July. So, I mean, this is not happening for the first time. This is the same DG ISPR, same ISPR which was sitting with the Foreign and Defense Minister of Pakistan throughout Kargil and saying, not even a single Pakistani soldier has died because we are not even there in Kargil. And then you end up admitting that 600, 700 people died. So, it is a continuous process.
Why does the Pakistani army lie so much to its people? You know, you're supposed to be a professional army. If some soldier dies in India, we're very upset, we're angry, we acknowledge the death. In Pakistan, if 5 soldiers have been killed, you acknowledge that 2 have died. Later, when it comes to giving citations and military honors, we discover that 10 had died that day. Through your own military records, we go back and look at what happened when the soldiers died. We find that that day you accepted that only 2 soldiers died.
Well, I think, Rahul, there is a reason why such kind of a debate is going on in India right now. First, India wants to divert the attention from the atrocities of the Indian military, from the Indian occupied Kashmir. Second, India wants to boost the confidence of the Indian army that is at the LOC, and they are at high alert. At the same time,
confidence and the morale of the Indian army, leave that aside. You know, I will deal with that. You answer the question that you're being asked. Why does the Pak army lie? They've been caught with their pants down. You've given military citations to soldiers whose death you never accepted on the day that they died, and soon after, in the release put out by the Pakistani army, their names are not even mentioned, who you accept only 1 year later.
The point is that it is Pakistan military which remembers its soldiers who embrace Shahadat. You know, this
after
6
1 year,
September,
after 1 year, not when they die.
Let me finish my argument. This 6 September, which is the Defense Day in Pakistan, you know what is the slogan? The slogan is to go to the house of every martyr. That is the slogan of the Pakistan military on this 6 September, which is coming on Friday. We remember our soldier even if they embrace Shahadat or martyrdom. So it is not about giving press releases. It is about following the families of the Shahada when the families need their husbands, when the families need their parents. The military leadership, the civilian leadership goes their houses after they have been martyred, after years they go. So that is where we embrace the people who have embraced Shahadat. This is how the military embrace such kind of men. They are the men of the honor. They cannot be put into the dark. It is not that the Pakistani military or the government will not own them. I think this is just to divert the attention from Indian atrocities in Kashmir and to boost the confidence of the Indian military which has been died at LOC.
Qamar, I accept your fact that on 6th you will be celebrating Shahadat Day and you visit all the Shaheeds. I mean, it has to be done because you don't remember them when they die. You only go to their houses 1 year later. But are you saying that this year Pakistani army is also planning to visit the graves of 600 people who are buried in Kashmir, who died in the Kargil conflict, and Pakistan even refused to take their bodies? So I mean, it will be a good moment if you can admit their deaths today and visit their graves, and they are, who are buried in Kashmir, because you even refused to take the bodies of those martyrs and so-called Shaheed, what you call in Pakistani Pakistani army and label them as some, rogue elements of... I mean, this is the same DG ISPR and army which says that JEM does not exist in Pakistan. I mean, can you believe it? This is the same DG ISPR who spit up the facts. He said JEM does not exist in Pakistan. Whole world knows your Pandora of lies. You said Osama bin Laden does not exist in Pakistan. You said JEM does not exist in Pakistan. UNSC put sanction on JEM in Pakistan. Osama bin Laden is killed in Pakistan.
Let me answer this. When the avalanche was fell about 3-4 years ago or 5 years ago, Pakistan military spent more than 2 years in finding a single soldier which embraced Shahada there. That was a natural calamity that happened in Kargil, and it was Janakiani's time. Janakiani said for each soldier, for whatever time we have to spend, we will go for that. More than 2 years were spent in finding the bodies of the soldiers. So don't talk about, do not try to give...
Sushant Sareen, there's no way that you can get any kind of an admission from Pakistan, even if they are caught. Now, what's very interesting, apart from just the press releases, we've also got these pictures of the funeral of Havaldar Salim Rajput of the 28th Sindh Regiment, Basharat Hussain, another Pakistani soldier given a military burial. These are images on Pakistani social media that India Today open source teams have been able to pull out. Deaths of soldiers who were never acknowledged by the Pakistani army.
Yeah, and look, Rahul, I can understand Qamar Chima's predicament. He has to toe the same line which the ISPR toes, because the Pakistan army has created this larger than life image about itself. But let me tell you something. There is a Pakistani journalist, if you want I can name him, Wajahat Khan, who is basically embedded, who is basically a lackey and a tout of the Pakistan army. Now, on August 14th this year, he tweeted that here is something that the ISPR won't tell you. 5 to 7 Pakistan army soldiers are lost every week on the Western Front. 10 to 12 Pakistan army troops are killed in action every week due to engagements in the Eastern Theatre / LOC. Now, this is a man who's deeply embedded into the Pakistan army thing, and this is on 14th August. He's lamenting the kind of casualties that the Pakistan army is taking. Where do you hear that 10 to 12 Pakistani troops are dying every week because of the adventurism they carry out on the LOC? And which is why the report which your team has investigated, this gives veracity to that particular report, that actually the Pakistan army is hiding its casualties. And when the Indian army claims that so many casualties have been caused because bunkers have been bombed or have been shelled, then clearly there is some truth to what the Indian army is claiming. On the Indian side, even a single casualty, whether it's injury or it is death, is acknowledged because the bodies go to the villages. And in India, you have to see those images to believe the kind of outpouring of sentiment there is when the martyrs' bodies reach their villages. Now, so you can't hide this. In Pakistan, on the other hand, they hide everything. The media, there is a total clampdown. The media can't report. And as you were talking about Kargil, even during the Kargil conflict, it was monitoring the Pakistani media and the advertisements which were taken out that you could figure out how many soldiers had actually died, and the namaz, the Gaibana namaz-e-janaza or the namaz-e-janaza in absentia, which were being carried out all over the place in the case of over 500, 600 people whose bodies never went back to Pakistan, and the Pakistanis refused to acknowledge them. There is also that story of an officer who was buried in India and whose grandfather then approached the Indian DA or the Indian Army chief in London and then got the body exhumed to be handed over to the family. Now, this is what the Pakistan Army does. And frankly speaking, anybody who thinks that the Pakistan Army still lives by the traditions of the old British Indian Army, the trappings are the same, but the mindset is very different. And this is a very, very Islamized kind of an army, which believes that people who go and die, their bodies, even if they are not recovered, they have already achieved the status of a shaheed. So even if they don't get a proper burial, even if their deaths are not acknowledged, or the circumstances surrounding their death are not acknowledged, it's perfectly okay. So I
Just
think
does
that
this,
is the
Kamar
kind of
Chima,
army we are dealing with.
lower the standing of any professional army? It's just a pathetic, inhuman thing to do. That one of your soldiers goes down fighting for your country and your country doesn't even have the grace to acknowledge that death.
I think your argument is not plausible. One, you don't have statistics, and above all, you know,
Sir,
it is the Pakistani military which speaks
It's
for
your
every
military
soldier.
that provides
Even
the
the
statistics,
injured one.
sir.
Kamal,
Even the
come
injured
on.
one.
Own facts. It's
Come
your
on.
own,
The
it's
injured
your
This
own
is-
numbers, sir.
This is not our facts. These are the
You
facts
can-
and statistics put up by the
Right-
DG
right
ISPR,
now
the
you
liar-in-chief
right
Asif
now You
Ghafoor.
can log on to Facebook, go to DG ISPR Facebook page.
argument.
The numbers are there, sir. I'm not running that page.
Sir, listen, the Shuhada have a separate desk at the GHQ. The families of the Shuhada have a separate desk. The injured get the proper treatment, and above all, for life, the families are honored for life. They get the pay, they get
Rahul.
the package.
Sir,
They
Nobody
get
is
Jiten has
contesting.
something to
Nobody
show
is
you.
contesting.
Jiten.
There are hundreds of such posts by your liar-in-chief Asif Ghafoor on the official DG ISPR page every month. These are not our concocted facts. These are your facts. I mean, come on. You say that Ghafoor is lying. You say Ghafoor is lying. You know, I'll tell you what. One simple fact. If you look at the traits of any professional terrorist militia in the world, they try and create instability in different countries. They bomb people, they kill people, they refuse to take the body of their own, cadre. I mean, this is what Pakistani army is also doing. I mean, basically, your army is turning into a rogue militia and trying to come across as a professional army. It is basically becoming a bunch of terrorists trying to tell the world that they are a professional organization and their lives have been caught pants down by your own statistics.
You know what, the one thing, okay, one second, don't hyperventilate, please, calm down. The Sushant Sarin, the one thing Pakistan can't deny is these anomalies that we've picked up between their official reports, between the day the incident happened or the day after that, the number of casualties that were put out, and what they claim much later with the names they've given. We've also got photos of funerals which the Pak army never accepted. They can't run away from it.
So that is exactly, so Rahul, the issue out here is not that the Pakistan army is not acknowledging the deaths of people, because that they have to, because there are certain procedures, pensions, and Kamarji was quite right that pensions have to be paid, those families have to be catered for, all those tamjham has to be done. The point is not that. The point is that the Pakistan army is not acknowledging the circumstances in which the soldiers have died, partly because it's deeply embarrassing for the Pakistan army, which has created this veneer of invincibility about it, that, you know, it's this all marauding kind of an army which just goes and everybody is really scared of them. That is clearly not the case, and they're taking quite a beating. Now, when those soldiers die, the rest of the procedures happen. They're given the state funerals, they're given all of that, but the circumstances in which they have died and the enemy who has killed them, that is always kept hidden, because then the Pakistan army is afraid that there will be demands on the Pakistan army that they need to take more action and then get their backsides kicked even harder. So all of that they want to, brush under the carpet. So yes, they acknowledge the deaths, but post, after a significant period of time. And of course, they do give them the dues which are due to the soldiers, but that's about it. So I think you need to distinguish between these two things.
Okay, I'm going to end it over there. The reality is,
point.
yes, Jiten.
Kamal, tributes from our side. I hope tomorrow, on the 6th, DG ISPR, all of your Pakistanis will go to the home of Dusra Banda, as per Ghafoor Saab, who died in the military hospital in Kashmir on 27th Feb. Our tributes to him. I hope you will go to his home also. Thank you. Let us see if you go and pay tributes to him at his home also. We will wait for it. Or maybe a year later we will discover that another Dusra Banda who came in a statistical post by Asif Ghafoor on Facebook.
Which were going from Pakistan to Afghanistan for 6 months when they mistakenly martyred 24 Pakistani soldiers. The Americans and Hillary Clinton apologized from Pakistan while they martyred our soldiers mistakenly. So this is how we honor our soldiers.
You're saying
Our tributes to Dusra Banda. Thank you.
You're saying a lot of things but not answering the fundamental question about why the Pakistani army lies. You just go by the Pakistani army's own records. From the time when the incident happens and much later, the number of soldiers who died just goes up. These are ghost martyrs of the Pakistani army. Why that's happening, you've seen that in this India Today investigative report.